All right, guys, today we're going to go over the full remote cleaning business course. This is a complete system to build a 10K per month remote cleaning business from scratch. This is what I've done with hundreds of people at this point. It's a proven system. Today, we're going to walk through this together. So if you're somebody who's tired of trading time for money and wants to build a real business that can replace your 9-to-5 income, this is the video for you. Because what I'm about to give you is something that most people will pay me thousands of dollars for. This is a complete course for building a remote cleaning business from scratch that can generate $10,000 plus per month without you ever needing to touch a mop. I started and scaled my own cleaning business from 0 to 40K plus per month in just under 9 months, and I've helped hundreds of students do the same. Some hitting 10K in as little as 15 days using an extremely simple system. This has allowed me to build a lifestyle that I love and become financially free. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do the same. So let's not waste any time and let's get right into it. So the first part here, before we go into the actual details of everything, I want to describe to you why this opportunity is the perfect escape plan. Most side hustles are just another trap, or usually they're trend dependent. You're still trading your time for money. Drop shipping, for example, would have razor thin margins, zero competitive moat because you're selling the same exact product. Amazon FBA requires thousands of dollars in inventory up front. That also can be problematic from shipping overseas. And agencies typically have constant client churn and fulfillment bottlenecks. Specifically, if you're chasing trends, AI is the new one. If Google pushes an update right now, you can be extinct overnight. And consulting still sells your time, so you do hit a ceiling fast. In my opinion, what makes cleaning different is that it's built on recurring revenue, okay? So you're acquiring a customer once, and they're paying you month after month after month, right? The beauty about this industry is there's unlimited demand, right? Cleaning is something that always will be in demand because just by the nature of what it is, things get dirty. Time just needs to pass before something needs to be cleaned again. I mean, you can look outside right now. If you take any single building, every single house, every single apartment complex, you name it, they all need to be cleaned, and they all need to be cleaned many, many times throughout the year, which is why, in my opinion, this business is recession proof, right? Because this is just a constant need that's, as places grow more and develop more complexes, this is just going to be something that is always going to be around. So if we look at this opportunity, what really changed the game for me was when I realized the math and how simple the math was to get off the ground and get started with a business like cleaning, right? It's really great, in my opinion, when you put numbers to the actual idea, right? A lot of people will say, hey, I want to make, X amount of money, and, they just stop at that. I like to go a step further. I like to plan it out. I like to know exactly what that means in day-to-day terms, so it makes sense to me. Otherwise, it's just a number, right? So the math that really changed my life when I was about to get into this opportunity was I just did rough recurring math, and I'm going to walk you through it right now of what this actually means. So if you get one client that pays you $200 on average every 2 weeks, that equals $4,800 per year for one client, right? That's a ton of revenue. Now, if you get 10 of those clients, that equals $48,000 in annual recurring revenue. That is an incredible amount of money for 10 clients, right? They're giving you basically $5,000 annually. On top of that, if you did the quick math, okay, cool. How do we get to 6 figures, $100,000 in annual recurring revenue? That's going to be generally around 21 clients paying you $200 every 2 weeks. So this math allowed me to see the path forward and say to myself, okay, if I only need 21 clients, this is going to be really, really simple to scale if I can just focus on getting these clients. On top of that, you're not even doing the cleaning. So while that income is coming, you can still get more clients coming in after that, and you're able to scale much more efficiently because you're not actually bottlenecked by you cleaning the house, right? So when I realized this math, that's where things started to change tremendously. And I personally had tried other side hustles in the past, even the ones that I talked about, Amazon FBA, drop shipping, trading, all of those things that, you typically would see online. I had tried all those. I failed at all of them. None of them worked for me. I couldn't make sense of it. It always seemed like a pie in the sky in terms of when is this actually going to turn into a real business. Whereas if you look at this and you look at these numbers, it's so simple to understand that the path to success seems like a straight line. And honestly, it's the simplest one that I've come up with to date. So if you look at this income curve, I think the beauty is when you get into the compounding portion of getting recurring revenue. And that's where you start to see this hockey stick growth, right? In the beginning stages, I think it's probably similar to any traditional side hustle, but the beauty is when you start having these call it baselines of recurring revenue into each and every single month, you know, walking into the next month, I have XYZ dollars per month already locked in, which allows your new sales to just add on top of it and you to be able to add to the recurring revenue for every month to come. So I think that's the beauty of this, right? That's really what you're trying to achieve when you get into a business like this. You don't want to be, starting from zero every single month, right? You're building a nest egg, you're building your reserves, you're building your security and predictability in this business. So in saying that, the power is in the customer acquisition cost being divided across the multi-month portion of the payments, right? Like I said before, all of those other models I talked about where you have to find new customers constantly just to maintain your income, the dollars you're spending in marketing have to generate the amount of revenue that month. Whereas in this model, you do not have to do that. All you have to do is make sure that you're growing your recurring revenue base, and that starts to get split out across the months, which brings down your cost to acquire all of these customers. So that's really what I would say is like the beauty of this model and why I really got attracted to it in the first place. The other part that really interested me in this model is the remote advantage. So let me show you what my actual day looks like managing a 40K plus per month cleaning business. In the morning, I spend about 30 minutes. So I'm just checking my messages on my phone from our business phone. I'm looking at today's jobs. I'm confirming that all our cleaners and my team is on top of anything that's popping up from the management side. So if anything were to occur in the morning, we're handling that. I'm aware of it. We're having any back and forth if needed with my team, but they're going out there and ensuring that if there's any issues, they're handling it. So I'm technically not doing any of those things. After that, I've got my midday check-in. I quickly check in to see how the morning's been going, the sales in the morning's been going, if we had any interviews, any back and forth, any problems that might have popped up with my team, I'm checking in with them. And then at the end of the day, I look at everything that's happened. I have a dashboard that has all my data that I'm looking at from the company side. I'm reviewing photos from the completed jobs. What's on the plate for tomorrow? Is everything set up for success? And are there any outstanding issues, responding to any clients, anything like that that needs to be taken care of? And that's honestly what my day looks like to this point. The total time of that is 45 minutes per day, and the rest of my day is completely mine. Now, I will say it is not like this from the beginning. There's a process to getting to this point. But when you do things correctly, when you have a system in place, when you have the people in place to implement the system, this is a very, very achievable outcome. And many of my clients have gone to this point where they're telling me like they're bored, they don't know what to do anymore because, they have the system that's installed into their company. So to me, what remote management actually means, and I know a lot of people will say, what do you mean by remote and remote cleaning? Because that's confusing because we have to clean. It means the following. You never meet clients face to face unless you want to. Now, you obviously can do that, but nothing, that's not really required in this business model. You never visit properties unless you choose to. Again, not necessary in executing this business model. You manage everything from your phone and laptop. What that really means is you're leveraging technology that is now available in 2025 to be able to accomplish everything that goes on operationally in the business. Your cleaners handle the physical work, right? So you are not personally on the property cleaning a toilet, cleaning a shower, cleaning an oven, nothing like that. And you handle the communication, scheduling, and quality control, okay? Now, in my example, like I talked about just above in my day, I have a team that does that, but initially you would be doing all of that in terms of the communication, scheduling, quality control, and running the business. So the beautiful thing about this model and the way that I just outlined it is that your income isn't capped by your personal capacity. As you can see here, there's a lot of leverage through technology and labor that is being done through this model so you can scale effectively and efficiently. It's only limited by how many cleaners you can manage well and how many clients you can acquire. Because if you can do those things with this setup, you will be able to scale and scale very well with tons of profit. So most people think running a cleaning business means waking up at 5 a.m., cleaning 4 to 5 houses, coming home exhausted every single day, but that's not what I do. I wake up when I want to. I'm usually waking up around 8 or 9 a.m. I spend 45 minutes managing my business from my phone, like I mentioned before. Then I focus on growing the business or whatever I want to do with my day. I have never touched a mop in my company ever. In fact, I've never even stepped foot in the market that I have my company in. So not that you have to do that, but just to prove a point, I've never even been to the market. I simply am an operator of the business. Okay. The difference is I'm not a cleaner who runs a business. I'm a business owner who provides cleaning services. And that's a fundamental shift in this model that you have to realize. Even if you're a cleaner right now, or you've never done any cleaning in your life, as long as you have that mentality, you can run this business and learn the skills to do so. Okay. And to further that, I actually think it's an advantage to not having cleaned ever in your life, because it'll allow you and be open-minded to how to run this business with this more modernized approach. If you think about McDonald's, that guy was not a burger flipper, right? He wasn't a professional burger flipper, but he was a systems savant, right? That's why you see McDonald's globally, okay? That's not because this guy's the best hamburger maker that the world has ever seen, right? I think everyone can agree on that. It's the same principle though. He's thinking, how can I make this such a rigid system that I can repeat this any place on the globe? If you apply that to the cleaning business, you will realize it's the same thing. So what you actually need to master instead of cleaning toilets is client acquisition through marketing and sales, people management for hiring and training, operations for scheduling and quality control, automations for systems and efficiency, understanding finances for pricing and cash flow management, okay? These are the higher leverage skills that allow you to run this type of business at scale, repeatably and predictably. Okay, you can hire the cleaning expertise for $20, $25, $30 per hour, but you cannot hire entrepreneurial drive and business thinking, which is really what this model is predicated on. It's based on the person who is open to doing those things that I just mentioned and executing and implementing that in a very, very traditional business like cleaning. And to me, if you have no experience, the reason why you would often win in this situation is because you don't have any bad habits from the old way of doing things, right? If you come into this with predispositions, your old ways of doing things, that's when you get stuck, right? It's hard to get out of habits that, you've been doing for years potentially, right? In addition to that, those individuals will understand where we're at in this industry. And to me, where we're at in this industry is we are in a technological evolution of the industry. We're in a stage right now where people can leverage, all the software online and the systems online from day one. If you even think 10 years ago, to run a cleaning business, you had to go to an office, you had to manage a real physical office, you had to have all the cleaners check in, they all drive out, they all come back in at the end of the day, and then they go home. Right? That is the old days. Those days are generally speaking done, right? So we are really embracing technology and systems from day one, and people who come into that, embracing that, do really, really well. And again, that all comes from thinking like a business owner and not a cleaner or employee. It's really understanding I want to be in that higher level position that leverages all of those things, right? And they're not limited by preconceived notions, right? So they don't think that the cleaning industry has to be what I just described, a bunch of people that check in an office building to go clean. There's a gig economy that's growing year over year right now at a rapid pace. This is the new age in terms of how we deliver services at scale, okay? And just to give you an example of like, what does it look like when you're doing all of those things correctly? Mike had zero cleaning experience when he started. He has an Airbnb business that he runs successfully. He hit 10K in 24 days because he just followed the exact system I taught, right? I think one of the things about Mike is because he had no cleaning experience, he was very open to the things that we just talked about, embracing technology and systems from day one, focusing on all these things up here and getting a result in a very, very short period of time. If we look at another result, Zach literally had zero cleaning experience whatsoever. He worked in corporate sales, still works in corporate sales. He hit 10K in 45 days, and he went on to close over 400K in revenue in his first year, as you can see right here. The big thing here, and what I'm trying to illustrate with this and Zach's results, is that he basically, again, nobody here knew what they were doing in terms of being the best cleaner, but they understood that that's not required for me to be successful here, okay? They just mastered these items here and continued to develop those skills. That's why they're sitting where they are today. At this point, you might say, hey, this sounds great, but you're still wondering, how do you actually get clients? That's exactly what we're going to cover next. And I'm going to show you the exact 30-day roadmap my students use to get their first 10 clients. But before we dive into that, I want to remind you, if you want my team and my personal help implementing this entire system with one-on-one personalized coaching and all my templates and SOPs and processes, check the first link in the description below. Now let's talk about getting clients. Now we're going to go over the foundations. That's market, research, and setup. So understanding your market is probably the most important thing before you start this business, because you need to make sure that you're entering the right market. You need to understand the qualitative metrics. You need to understand the quantitative metrics that go into what do we look for in the market, right? Because the last thing you want to do is start in a market where there's not an opportunity for you to scale profitably, okay? So I've simplified this down to 3 critical factors that will determine your success when taking a look at these markets. So number 1, population density. You want to make sure there's enough people in your area. I'll use a very extreme example. If there is only 10,000 people in your area, it's going to be very, very hard to scale because there's just not enough households, right? So you want to have a minimum threshold of at least 250,000 on the very short end of your target area. That way you can address the market but not feel like you have to be a majority provider to that total population. Your ideal clients will typically represent about 2 to 5% of the household. So higher density means more efficient operations and more potential customers within a smaller geographic area, right? You have to also consider logistics, right? When you're thinking about a market, you got to think, where are my customers? Where are my cleaners? How long is it going to take to drive from those two places, right? Generally speaking, those two buckets. And if you have a denser area, that means it's easier to do, right? Conversely, if you had like a large agricultural area, right, between where the cleaners are, where the clients are, that's just not going to be a logistical setup that's going to be conducive for success, right? So that's going to be something you need to take into consideration when you're trying to understand your market. Second thing is income levels. Obviously, you have to pay for cleaning services and you want to be positioned as a premium service. Therefore, you want to have individuals who have high discretionary income. So you want to be targeting areas where there's household income of at least 70,000 or higher. I mean, obviously in an ideal situation, 100,000 plus. And for the lower income households, cleaning becomes more of a luxury purchase when they'll cut when money's tight. And again, that's not who we're trying to target. That would be like the $40,000 per month and below household income. So we really want to target those higher income households because they see it as a necessity and are less price sensitive, right? Those individuals, and I think the common saying is some people have a ton of time, not that many resources or AKA income. And then there's also the flip-flop. So you've got people who have tons of income, tons of resources, but very little time, right? So we're really trying to service the second bucket because those people, they're busy. They got kids, they got jobs that are very serious. They've got things that they're trying to accomplish in their life. They don't want to spend 4 or 5 hours cleaning their house, right? They see that as a huge time suck in the rest of their life, right? So those are the individuals we want to target, and understanding the incomes from a demographic standpoint gives you a leg up. You're starting to understand, okay, this is where those types of people generally are, okay? And then a third thing you're going to want to do is a competition analysis. So what you would do and what I would do if I were going to do this is do a Google Map search for cleaning services in your area, okay? You want to count the results that have 100 plus reviews. So I want to know who in this area are serious operators, okay? And I would do this maybe for the first 2 pages of Google. I just did like a little screenshot here as an example, but this would be like page 1, and then you would do page 2, and you'd be looking on the left-hand side. You could see like how many reviews they have. Realistically, the ones that have over 100, those are the ones that have been in business longest. Those are the ones that really care about their customers and run a good operation where they're reliably and predictably getting those reviews, okay? Now, under 10 companies, and again, I would just say caveat here, this is generally speaking. There are some nuanced cases depending on what area you're in, but I'm just going to give you some general targets right now. So if there's under 10 companies, low competition, excellent opportunity. If there's 10 to 20, medium competition, still very doable. If there's 20 companies, high competition, you'll probably need some strong differentiation or something that you're going to market with that you feel like is your competitive advantage, whether that be from the hiring side or the marketing side, the sales side, or even just you with experience, okay? Now, once you've established these things, these 3 things that we talked about, you'll want to call these competitors, you want to get their services, you want to understand their services, you want to get their price points, you want to document all of that, and you want to understand those fundamentals. And what I mean by that is what you want to understand, how much are they charging and how much are you going to charge? And if you pay your cleaners X dollars relative to how much you're going to charge, what are you going to make as a business per clean on average? Okay, so I want to know from that information, what is the average amount that I'm going to make per clean? Because that's going to help me project out. Remember in the example I used above, if I get those clients that are going to give me those annual contracts, that's going to start to build my recurring income, okay? So this is the first step in planning that out. And I think the biggest thing from going through this exercise is I want you to feel confident about this decision, right? This is to get information, right? This isn't a guarantee, and I want to make sure everyone understands this. Just because you do a great market analysis, and I think it is very important in the beginning stages, the devil is all in the details of execution, right? This is planning. This is giving yourself information. This is giving yourself an informed decision about what you're about to do. However, by no means does this mean like you're going to guarantee success doing this. This is the first step, just making sure you're in the right place. You do want to keep things in mind, though, from a red flag standpoint, like medium household incomes under 50K. Like I said before, huge spans between where your cleaners and clients are going to be, where the drive time is too long, and markets that have hundreds of reviews with tons and tons of cleaning companies. Those are going to be things you want to avoid generally. Okay. So once you've established that you have the right market, it's really about making sure that the business is set up well. So I'm going to walk you through step by step the essentials, I would call it. Now, there are other things that you can add to this. So I'm not going to say this is by all means like everything you could possibly have, but these are the essentials, right? You want to make sure that your business is at least set up properly so you don't have to worry about anything down the line, or you don't have to worry about any legacy issues from doing this incorrectly to start. Okay. So the first thing you're going to want to do once you've found the market is get your legal structure in place. I recommend an LLC to start because it protects your personal assets. It costs a few $100s depending on your state. You can do it online in most places through a registered agent. Once you get that documentation, you'll want to get an EIN, Employment Identification Number from the IRS. It's free. It takes 5 minutes online. And once you have that, you're a legal entity. One thing I'll note is a lot of people say, hey, what's the difference between an LLC and an S Corp? It really depends on what your tax structure is in terms of income. So when you're starting a company, I don't think you need to do an S Corp. Maybe year 2 or 3, depending on how well you're doing, makes more sense to transition to an S Corp. But right now, I would just recommend keep it simple, do an LLC. You can always change that down the line. From there, once you have that, you're going to have some non-negotiables for what you need in this company, right? You're going to need insurance, right? You can't go unprotected into any homes. You're going to need general liability insurance. That protects you if something gets broken or damaged. You will require this from your cleaners as well. Okay, you can pay monthly for this insurance. Usually it's around $50 to $100 per month, depending on the provider. And that's a non-negotiable. Again, you have to have that. Banking, you're going to want to open a separate business checking account. Most banks offer these for free. There's many online resources that you can use. This keeps your business and personal finances separate, which is crucial for legal protection and tax purposes. Do not commingle your funds is my one disclaimer when it comes to running this business. That's how you get audited. That's how you get things confused and penalties occur, right? So always keep those two things separate. You're going to want to have a tech stack, okay? This tech stack is going to have your basics and tools as you grow. These are going to include your booking software. So that's software that will allow you to coordinate your bookings between your cleaners and your clients and manage that entire process. There are many different booking softwares out there. I personally use Booking Koala, but there are many that provide this. You're going to want to have a business phone line. So this is a dedicated phone line for your business. This is the publicly listed phone line that if someone sees your number, they call this number. This needs to be listed consistently across all of your digital online presence. So it's important that you get a designated business phone line. Do not do some hybrid situation off a personal line. I would personally recommend just getting a dedicated online phone line that you can use on a software web browser. The reason being is if you can get one of those, as you build out your management support team, they're going to be able to use that phone from anywhere in the world, right? So you don't want to, get, for example, if you did something where it was like tied to your mobile phone, it's not a good idea because you can't share that, okay? So there's many providers that do that, but you want to get a business phone line. You're going to want to get Gmail. So that's a dedicated business email and domain for your business. That's important for client communication, right? Emails that are not coming from some random personal email, they need to come from a company email, as well as having a website to visit, right? You need to have a domain because domains are connected to your online URL. So call it www.michaelshomecleaning.com. That is an example of a domain that's connected to your website. You need to have those things, which then brings me to the next point. You have to have a website. This is going to be your digital presence. In 2025, you can't run a business today without having online digital presence. If you do not have this, you're falling behind. Okay. And it's going to be a place for your customers to find you, book online with you, send requests in, right? So this is something I would call this like your digital real estate, okay, is your website. So you need to have one of those things. I would just tell you right now in the beginning stages, a basic website will be fine. Down the line, though, you'll want to get a custom website that's more optimized for what you're trying to do. But as you're beginning the company, I want you to be, cash flow sensitive towards this. So you don't need to spend thousands of dollars on a website. There's plenty of, website providers that you can get it down to less than $100 a month. Okay. You're going to want to have a payment processor. So if you don't know what a payment processor is, all a payment processor does is basically allow you to process payments remotely and securely. If you've ever bought anything online, you've gone through some sort of a payment processor. What that means is they've taken your, call it credit card, debit card information, and they've charged your card while protecting your information from the company that is processing that payment. Okay. So Stripe is the one that we use. Stripe is just the easy one that is globally known and secure. And you have to have this, to be honest with you, if you want to run this business remotely, because if you do try and do this with cash, it's going to be a nightmare because that requires physical presence, which is a waste of your time if you're going to go drive to everyone's house to collect the cash for the day. So as you can see, that probably doesn't work, and it does not work well at scale, particularly. Some nice to haves later on for your tech stack is your CRM software. So CRM, if you don't know what this is, it's called Customer Relationship Management Software. Okay, so any customer that you come in contact with, it manages them, it organizes them. You can send automated things to them. It's not really required day one when you're smaller, so I'm not going to put that as a need to have, but you should be thinking about that as you look towards growth, as you look towards scaling. Okay. Bookkeeping software. Again, you don't have to have this day one, but especially what we'll talk about later today, just organizing, be systems oriented with your approach, having your expenses all in one place, having your payouts to your 1099s all in one place. Very important to have. And then the other thing is email automation. Eventually you'll want to do email campaigns, things like that. These are all nice to haves. For marketing, email is going to be great for getting some of those business professional clients. So everything I just talked about right here, proper setup for that, honestly, is only going to be around $1,000 to $1,500 if you do everything at once. So it's not going to be very expensive to get this set up. It's pretty lean in terms of all the other types of businesses you can start. And here's the key. You can use the revenue from your first few jobs to fund everything else. So you don't need to have thousands of dollars to start this business. So now that we've gone through pretty much like what does it look like to get those essentials set up for running this business, I think the other thing you need to keep in mind is like a critical mindset shift. This is where most people fail. They really just create another job for themselves instead of building a business. And let me show you the difference. So there's an employee mindset and there's a business owner mindset when it comes to this. As you can see on this chart right here, the person who comes into this with an employee mindset has the following thoughts. They might even be a cleaner themselves, but if you come into this business thinking, I need to clean houses, how many houses can I clean? I need to work harder, and I'm trading my time for money. These are the kinds of thoughts that are going to be conducive for staying where you are and not scaling. If you have a business owner mindset, you're thinking the following. I build systems that clean houses, right? How many houses can my team clean? I need to work smarter. I need to build systems to build more money, right? They're fundamentally very, very different approaches. I would call it a systems first approach when it comes to business ownership. And what I mean by that is as you're beginning the journey, you need to do the following things. You need to document everything, even when it's just you starting out. The idea is you're building a system, right? How do we do things? What are the steps? If someone were to do this on behalf of me, could they do this? Do I have the instructions for them, right? Building processes like you're planning to scale from day one, right? Because that, if you want to ask me what is the main thing that led to my success very quickly, it's this. I was thinking this way from the first day I started the business. I was always asking, okay, if someone was doing this exact task that I was doing, do I have everything I need to train someone else to do it? Right? So you're thinking of problems as system gaps that need to be fixed once and documented. Okay. That will eventually prevent the bottlenecks that come with scaling. So if you think this way, that's how you get many, many houses done very, very quickly. Okay. So critical mental shifts you need to make are, number one, you're not a cleaner. You're a business owner who provides cleaning services. Number two, time is your most valuable asset. You're hiring out $20 to $25, $30 an hour work so you can focus on the $100 per hour plus activities, right? Leverage. Building a sales system to manage hundreds of clients a month is worth way more than $20 to $25 per hour, right? That is the fundamental thing. You have to be, and sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you have to be diligent with yourself and catch yourself. And I'm not saying that I'm even perfect. There are times when I think, okay, what am I doing? Wow, this is like a $5 per hour task. This is not worth my time, right? So you have to be diligent about understanding and being aware of that. I think the awareness is the first part. And then once you're aware, you can then proactively police that out of yourself, right? So every problem is a system gap. Fix it once, document it, never solve it again. And you got to distinguish between investments and expenses. Right? Marketing generates revenue. Software multiplies your time. You want to be doing both of those things. You want to be weighing those out as you're trying to become efficient and scale. Okay. So if you come into it thinking this way, you can tell by the way that I'm presenting this and the way that I'm speaking about it, it's a completely different way to running a business. Okay. And if you have this approach, you will be able to run these remote businesses at scale very well. And this graph illustrates what the difference is between an employee or a business owner. And to be honest with you, there are many of them. There are many cleaners in this business that do not know how to grow a company because fundamentally they're two completely different things, okay? The red line would be a cleaner, right? Month over month, consistent income. They know what they're doing. They know how to clean houses. They know only that, right? The green is the business owner path. This is everything that we've talked about. This is building systems. This is building marketing funnels. This is building sales processes. This is managing a team. This is running everything through technology. This is building your recurring income month over month, okay? That's how you have exponential growth. That's how you beat out all the cleaners in any market, because there's only one of them, right? They don't know how to do all those things we just talked about. They don't know how to shift their thinking. And because of that, the growth trajectory are completely different and lopsided in the way of the business owner, okay? So this is a 12-month income comparison. As you can see, as the time goes on, the disparity becomes larger because the skills that are being applied have much higher leverage. I can't stress that enough. And remember, money will find you if you're worth receiving it, not the other way around. And what I mean by that is if you build those skills that I just talked about, that's what I mean by worth receiving it. This isn't really like a mantra like The Secret, right? If you think about more money, you're going to get it. I don't really believe in that. By all means, you can believe in that if you want to. But what I'm saying here is this is acquisition of skills that produces income. And that is this. This is acquisition of skills applied properly, is this green line, okay? So that's really what I mean by money will find you, because it's not an accident once you know all these things. It's just a matter of time. All right, guys, now we're going to go over the client acquisition system. This is the fun stuff. This is when we start actually going and making some money in the company. And I know to this point, we've talked about mindset. We've talked about foundation. We've talked about business setup. Those things are all important. They need to be done before you get here. But obviously, that is one part of the equation. Once you're live, you actually need to grow the company. So we're going to go through finding your first clients, what the 30-day roadmap looks like after you go live. Okay, so getting your first clients is actually easier than most people think. So here's the exact 4-week plan my students follow. So your first week, that's about setting your foundation. That's getting your Google stuff set up. That's getting your software stack set up. That's getting your website set up. That's making a list of your inner circle of people that you know, friends, families, coworkers, neighbors, literally anybody. Then the second week, we've talked about this in actually some other videos within the YouTube channel, but that's messaging that inner circle, your warm market blitz, going through a personalized message to all of them, letting them know, hey, I started a professional cleaning service in XYZ area, and basically probing as well as presenting an offer for them to get your first initial clients, right? Oftentimes people will refer you if they're not interested, or they might just be interested themselves, right? And really this initial strategy is to just get a first initial pop from your local network. Usually some people will give you an opportunity to try, and then if that goes well, you can use that one win to parlay that into multiple wins. So something I even tell some of my clients within the group is, okay, let's just say you had one of these clients, they said, hey, sure, we'll do the cleaning. If that goes well and they say, my God, this was an amazing cleaning, I love XYZ cleaner, I would then go and just basically say, hey, we will run an additional promotion for you and give you X percentage off every time you refer us a client, right? So you're turning your first initial clean and clients into advocates and marketers of your own business, right? So that's how you turn one win into two wins into 4 without even doing anything else, but just giving that one client a 10 out of 10 experience. Okay. So from there, I would expect around 2 to 4 actual clients from that warm market blitz. Okay. Now, week 3 is what I would say is we're going to get into more traditional digital marketing to get cold traffic. Whenever I say cold traffic, all I'm saying is getting customers who have no idea who you are, right? So you're using services like Google local service ads, Facebook ads, you're putting a weekly budget, you're running marketing campaigns, and getting initial traction and calls that are inbound or forms that are filled out. So my recommendation is, okay, run the warm market blitz, get those initial clients, use those profits to start using paid advertising, and from there, get cold traffic to start booking with you, okay? So these are 2. Obviously, there's more digital marketing platforms out there. I think these are 2 of the most popular ones, so I'm just putting this here for example purposes, but when you're running that budget, you're gonna get X amount of calls. You're gonna wanna convert them typically at a 30% or more sales conversion. And I would expect you to get about 4 more clients through this process. So that would be 7 total through 3 weeks of doing the warm blitz and then starting your paid advertising. Okay. And then the 4th week would be a continuation of everything you've done in week 3, as well as expanding beyond your inner circle of what we're seeing here. So that's joining Facebook groups, posting about your service, going on Nextdoor in your target neighborhood, same exact strategy with Facebook groups, reaching out to real estate agents on Instagram about move out cleaning, show cleanings, any property management groups they know. And the idea here is to get 3 more clients through the addition of paid advertising and expanding your inner circle beyond your network. Okay. And this is how you would get your 10 clients in what I would say the easiest path that requires the least amount of money. Now, obviously, just so we're on the same page, if you had more money, you can definitely spend more in the stuff that we're talking about in the paid advertising to expedite your growth. But if you had limited funds and you wanted to go with the leanest possible approach, this is the best of both worlds, in my opinion, where you're acknowledging that you're starting with this amount here that's obviously free to get, and then you're parlaying that into more growth here. And this is what I would recommend as like your first 4-week strategy, okay? And as you can see in this visual, this is kind of basically what it would look like, right? Client acquisition, these are the 4 different points. And throughout this process of scaling up your clients, something that I want to quickly make note of is you need to get your Google business profile up and running and moving in the right direction. And what I mean by that is your Google business profile is going to be something that is searchable on Google. And in order for you to be a top ranker, what you're going to want to do as you start to get your first initial clients is as follows. Get reviews, get 5-star reviews as quickly as possible, okay? Because this is going to be a way for people to find you organically. And the more reviews you have, the more likely you're going to start appearing in the 3-pack. The coveted 3-pack is whenever you're looking at a Google map and you appear at the top and it shows you the map and 3 companies, that's the Google 3-pack, okay? And you want to make sure that you have all of your customers are followed up with, they're adding photos of your work, you're posting updates weekly, and you're using Google My Business best practices as you're doing everything that we just talked about on the client acquisition side. The goal here is with every single person that you initially have, you make sure that it's a 10 out of 10 experience so you don't feel bad asking for 5-star reviews and growing your digital online presence, okay? Again, this should also tie into you need to have a website. You don't have to have a crazy good website. You just have to have one that works. So again, core functionalities, booking, quoting online, services explained, company value proposition. These are the basics of having this ready to go that ties into your Google business profile. Okay, now we're going to go over marketing channels that actually work. So let me save you some time and money by telling you what works and what doesn't, okay? So channel 1, Google local service ads. This is one of the most popular marketing channels for cleaning businesses. Here's why. You only pay when someone actually contacts you. So it's not per click. That's not to be confused with Google Ads. Google Ads is a pay per click, okay? That's a much more complicated conversion marketing channel than Google local service ads. Google local service ads, they're going to contact you directly, and that's when you pay. You get a Google guaranteed badge that builds instant trust, okay? So building instant trust online is very critical, right? Because people, especially in 2025, they're very hesitant to trust people online. When you have a Google guaranteed badge, that's going to signal to people, okay, this is a good company, this is quality, this has been vetted, this is someone that I feel comfortable giving a call, okay? Your ads show at the very top of search results. So this is something that you guys have probably seen, but this is a top of search results. This is what it looks like when someone's searching for cleaning services, okay? The one thing that I'll mention here with Google local service ads, because it's so good in terms of the lead quality that it's giving you, the cost can vary, the cost can be expensive, but the conversion will be very high because the intent of the person contacting you is so good. Again, these are high intent searchers actively looking for cleaning services, most likely today or very soon, right? So you can turn this into dollars very, very quickly. And just really quickly here, setup takes about a week. There's some verification things. It requires you to have 5 Google reviews. So I recommend doing this immediately. Like I mentioned before on the Google Map stuff, get the Google profile up, get your 5 reviews, get going on this as soon as possible. Quick math on this. Again, backing into some of the math we talked about earlier. If you spent $600 a month on ads, let's just say you got 20 leads from that. You close 6 of them at a 30% close rate at $200 per clean. That's $1,200 in monthly recurring revenue. That's just off the 600, not even including any of the recurring, right? So if we have recurring revenue, that's where it starts to become massive, massive amounts. If you were to times this by 12, right, you're talking about 5 figures of income off of $600 of spend, right? And that's where the magic happens in this industry, right? $14,000 is the annual recurring revenue from the $600 monthly spend if you're able to get those recurring clients. So I can't stress that enough. Now, in order to get that at that clip, my recommendation, and this is probably the number one thing, respond within 5 minutes. Speed to lead is literally everything on this platform. If you're not going to do it, I wouldn't even start this channel yet until you feel comfortable doing so. Speed to lead in sales is everything, especially with a business like cleaning where people are typically looking for things now. We live in a now economy, and you need to be aware of that. And if you're aware of that, you can do very well on this. On top of that, Google's also tracking this in terms of your ranking. So they know your responsiveness score, and if you're taking hours to respond when someone clicks some of these things, they are not going to rank you that high, okay? So keep that in mind for that marketing channel. Another channel is strategic partnerships. I think this is great for organic methods. So building relationships with real estate agents, property management groups, creates a consistent stream of high value clients. The reason being is that real estate agents, they're always going to need a cleaning service for their move out cleanings, for their showings, potentially any, referrals they have within the real estate agent group or anyone working adjacent to them because they all know each other, or HOA groups, right? Homeowners association groups, they're going to know them. So they're great referrals if you can provide good service to agents. Property management groups, they have tons and tons of inventory. Some property management groups are managing thousands of units, right? So they need cleaning vendors so they can do turnover units between the tenants. And the other thing I would say is, I know I put interior designers and home organizers often need cleaning partners. I'm going to just rephrase this. Any home service adjacent company business needs cleaning partners. Moving companies can do cleaning partnerships. Carpet cleaners can do cleaning partnerships. Window cleaners can do cleaning partnerships. You name it, cleaning partners can be adjacent and strategically aligned with them, okay? So I want you to think of this as your organic long-term strategic partner strategy. Costs you $0, just some effort and understanding what you're trying to do. And I would just approach it with something similar like, hey, I run a professional cleaning business in this area that you work in. I work with several agents and property managers to provide, move out, turnover cleanings. This phrase, just to be clear, depending on who you're talking to, you're going to need to change this. So this is the example if I'm talking to these two audiences. Obviously, if I'm talking to a different audience, I would change this line here. I noticed you're active in this neighborhood. Can I send you some information about our services? Right? I would start it this way, get the conversation going. My suggestion is hop on a call with them. Do not always do things over text and email. It's the least efficient way of getting things done. In my opinion, in this business, everything is done over the phone. If you're the type of person who gets on the phone, has these conversations, you're building rapport, you're building trust, you're able to close much faster, and that is my recommendation. Now, I would structure everything as a referral. You can do credits, you can do free cleaning services for them personally with X amount of referrals, but having some sort of system and affiliation in place with these individuals is just going to be a long-term growth mechanism. You want to start this as early as possible. Okay. Again, look at this. Power of partnerships. One active real estate agent can generate 24 move-out cleanings per year. That's well over 5 figures worth in revenue. So to me, this is a no-brainer. If you can do this, and this can be done through one call, right? It's worth its weight in gold to do this. And again, you can partner with adjacent home services that are looking for referral partners. All of these individuals are going to have business, and you guys can swap business. Costs everybody $0 to just be in business with each other. Third channel here, another organic. This is going to be your GMB and local SEO. Local SEO, we're not going to go into this completely on this video, but essentially we want your business, again, going back to being found on your map when people are looking up cleaning companies. This is the easiest way for you to build long-term organic traffic that doesn't cost you $1. It's free traffic just by being a highly ranked company. So if you focus on optimizing your Google business profile and consistently getting reviews, this is going to produce that. If you have 20 plus reviews, if you got almost a 4.9, 5.0 rating, you will start appearing in the 3-pack on local searches. So last month, this generated 12 new clients for me worth over $20,000 in annual value with 0 ad spend, okay? So that's really like the bread and butter. If you can do that, that's just going to be easy money, right? That you're stacking month over month. So the way that I do this is I make sure that I have a really good review generation strategy, and we are pretty consistent with getting good reviews every single time that we have a cleaning with a client, okay? So my recommendation, this is a 3-step strategy. Within 1 hour after the cleaning, text them this and call them, okay? Call them too. Ask them how it went. If it went well, send them the link on the call. Ask them to fill it out on the call. If you don't get a response, wait 48 hours, send a general reminder. You can send something along the lines of this, just following up. Your feedback's really important to us. Mind leaving us a quick review, put the link again. And then again, if you don't get a response back, I would ask one more time, maybe 7 days later. Add some social proof for incentive. We're donating a meal for every 5-star review we collect. Would love to add yours to the collection link, okay? Big thing though, get those reviews so you can get your ranking higher. What not to waste money on. Next door ads. I've never seen those work to this date. I've heard 0 success stories. Do not do that. Angie ads, I think I've seen like under 5 people do really well with them, so I don't really recommend doing them, especially in the beginning. I think they can work once you're very comfortable with your sales process, but they're long-term contracts. I would never suggest that to start your journey. Direct mail and door hangers at scale. So specifically at scale, they can be very, very expensive, and you have to do multiple drops. So as you can imagine, if you have to drop to 40,000 houses, and you have to do multiple, you're talking about buying hundreds of thousands of postcards. That's very, very, very expensive. However, the one disclaimer I would say is if you're going to do a specific location, you can do this. If you had a specific neighborhood that you're like, hey, this is a great neighborhood, I'd love to have all my clientele here. There's only 400 houses, then you can do direct mail because you'll do multiple rounds there, okay? And then traditional SEO agencies. I do not recommend this to start. If you had a ton of money that you're willing to invest into this, then sure, do this. But I don't think you need to do this to start. I would revisit this once you have enough capital for the long duration. So I wouldn't waste my money on any of those things. I don't think they're great at all, especially in the beginning stages. I think these can all have nuanced things that can be applicable down the line, but I wouldn't do this to start. Okay, now we're going to go over how do we actually take that marketing awareness and turn that into customers, right? Because it's one thing to understand, all right, we're getting customers through these marketing channels. It's another thing to actually consistently turn them into paying customers and turn them into customers that are going to be with us for years to come. So the biggest thing I'd say is speed to lead. I mentioned it before, but it's literally everything. The people that you see that are on my client testimonials that do very well, I can assure you, they are all having an amazing speed to lead score if we were to score them. Those that do the best are answering within 5 minutes. I cannot stress this enough. You can do everything right on the call, but if you don't contact them soon enough, it literally does not matter, especially when someone wants to get something done in a timely fashion, okay? So here's my quick 4-step framework for when we get somebody that has a live call that's interested in our services. So the first thing I want to do is qualify. So that's like probably the first 30 seconds of the conversation. I want to know, hey, can we even service them in the service area? What are they looking for in terms of service needs? And what is their property typically in terms of type? Anything to note in terms of focus areas, things like that, and how often do they need the service? Okay, so that's really just getting the X's and O's down of like, what are we even talking about in terms of this cleaning opportunity? Okay. The next step is really to build value. So I really like to let people know just before just dropping price, I want to build some perceived value before you drop the price. What people often do here is they'll just give them a price as soon as they get this qualification. And I think after that, you're playing off your back foot, right? Because you're basically just like everyone else. They don't see or understand what are the values of going with you. Okay. So I think it's good to at least say some things. You don't have to go through a 10-minute long rant about why you're so great as a company, but I do think it's important to explain what are the aspects that make us great, right? Or differentiates us from the competition. So something simple could be like we're fully insured and bonded. All our cleaners are background checked. We offer 100% satisfaction guaranteed. We've gone through many, hundreds of applicants every single month to find the best cleaners in our area. We're super reliable and great communicators. And that's what our clients love most about working with us, right? That's an example of something to say to somebody to build perceived value while you're on the call. Okay. Shouldn't be more than a couple minutes. And then step 3 would be quoting confidently. So I think initially as you're starting this process, the market research exercise is what gives you this confidence. Okay. Because listen, if you're doing this for the first time, you've never quoted before, you're not going to be 100% confident. There is a bit of fake it till you make it, but it should be grounded in the market research exercise you did. You should know the pricing. You should know that you're not completely off base for what you're offering. Okay. So that's going to be what I would say is like quoting confidently. Obviously, as you start to do this more and more, this is going to be like the back of your hand. You're going to know exactly how to quote, but especially in the beginning stages, as you're getting this company off the ground, rely on the work you did before. Okay. And that's why you should do a good job during the market research because it informs this exact moment in the sales process. It's all interconnected. Okay. Then step 4 is closing. All right. So that's just finalizing the details, handling any objections they might have and getting them on the schedule, getting their card information and pairing them with the provider so you can fulfill the service. So that's a simple 4-step framework. Now I'm going to just show you a visual here. This is exactly how the process should be. You're going to qualify them, build value, quote confidently, like we said, and close. Now, I think like a common objection you have during the close that we're just going to go over is the price one. Like that's more than I expected. And what I would tell you is that is them basically saying, I don't see the value. Whenever you hear that, if they don't see the value by saying it's too expensive, my recommendation is to, again, when I said perceive value, that means the customer doesn't perceive it to be value enough and you need to raise the perceived value again. So my recommendation is saying something along the lines of the difference between us at $130 and $100 is reliability, quality, and peace of mind. Again, we're fully insured. If something breaks, it's covered. Our cleaners are background checked. You can trust them in your home. And we guarantee our work. If you're not happy, we'll come back and fix it for free. And you can call me directly. I will pick up this line and make sure it's handled, no questions asked. We screen hundreds of applicants a month and go through a rigorous onboarding process to find the best cleaners in your area to service your place. Most clients tell us that extra $30 is worth never having to worry. Okay, so that's an example of how I would raise the perceived value on a call. So someone would be like, oh, okay, now I see why they're charging more, right? Because if you come into this call saying, oh man, we're going to be the cheapest price, or we want to be the cheapest price and compete with all those companies that are trying to do that, there's going to be 2 problems. You're going to get the worst possible clients and you're going to make the least amount of money. Right? So those are the two things we're trying to avoid. And in order to avoid it, you need to do things like this so you can get the most out of your customers, get the best customers possible, and get the highest paying customers that value your service and ultimately set your cleaners up for success. Because if you get customers that are penny pinching, I can assure you that they're going to put pressure on your cleaners too. Okay. So this is really what I recommend. And again, we're building the recurring revenue, right? The thing about the sales process is I don't want you to feel like you can only sell one-time services. The whole point here is you need to be building your recurring base. We've talked about this from the beginning of this video. So a one-time client paying $150 is worth $150. A recurring client paying $120 biweekly is worth $3,120 per year. 20 times more valuable. I can't stress this enough. It's just not even like we're talking about opposite ends of the spectrum. And my recommendation for conversion strategies is creating compelling offers, because great offers allow the client to feel like they're getting a good deal and they can't say no. So here's a couple proven pricing offers that you guys can use. So you can have a first 3 cleanings, 25% off bi-weekly commitment. You could have multiple different percentage off depending on like what their frequency of the service is. So weekly is more, obviously bi-weekly is a little bit less, and then monthly is the regular price. And then you can have a first cleaning dollar amount off if you sign up for recurring services. I would have some sort of minimum recurring services they have to complete to get this. So they have to lock in more than one cleaning, right? We're trying to incentivize multiple cleanings. So you have to do that through the offers here. And again, going through this is just tracking your monthly recurring revenue. They call it MRR in software, but it's the same thing here. We want to be growing our recurring revenue numbers and our clientele. Again, these are just some averages, just to give you an idea. And if you can grow your monthly recurring revenue month over month for the first 6 months, that is where you get to not only hitting 10K, but you might have 10K in recurring revenue heading into the next month. So again, looking at this is month over month compounding, right? So we're adding our baseline of recurring revenue month over month. And that is where it builds the predictability in the business. The beautiful part about this business, in my opinion, is that you know what you have heading into the next month without spending another dollar. I think the people who do this the best are the ones who understand this concept the soonest. Okay, and if you're able to do that, your revenue chart's going to look like this and your profit chart's going to look like this. All right, guys, now we're going to go over the hiring and operations system. So obviously we went through the marketing and the sales aspect of it, and that's important, but this business is double-sided. You got to have both. You got to have the cleaners and the clients in order to scale predictably and reliably. So we're going to go over how to find reliable cleaners remotely. So the key to scaling your cleaning business is to find people you can trust to represent your brand in clients' homes. Again, these people are front-facing. Now, although it's remote, you need to understand there's still going to be people that are on site, on location, representing your brand and fulfilling the service. So we need to make sure that having great cleaners is the integral part that actually makes this business grow. Because if you're not focused on your cleaners, you will not get the benefits of having recurring revenue growing. All those charts that I showed you before, that's predicated on having a great team. Okay, because listen, like if you have a really bad team, nobody's going to want to go with them. No one's going to want to stay on the schedule with them, and no one's going to want to, continue on with your company, right? So fundamentally, the client acquisition grows as you have a great team. Okay. Now, the 4 main places I recommend initially as you get through the process of finding great cleaners are as follows. I would go to Indeed.com. There's a huge applicant pool. It's free to post for jobs. I would say it's a high volume, low conversion platform. So there's going to be a ton of applications. That doesn't mean they're all qualified, but there are going to be good ones. So you do want to use it. Care.com. There's going to be home services specific background checks available. There's going to be cleaning specific people you can reach out to. Local Facebook group posts. So this is free again. You can target people in your area. You can target cleaners that are doing independent work in your area. And then my favorite, referrals from existing cleaners. This is probably the best source because if you have a great cleaner, they usually know other cleaners and they're going to put their name behind a cleaner they refer. I often put some sort of referral bonus for them, but these are going to be like the core 4 I would do initially as you try and find your cleaners. Now, the first thing you need to make sure is before you start with any of these cleaners, there's 4 qualification questions I would ask. Number 1, do they have reliable transportation? Number 2, what's their availability? Number 3, how much professional cleaning experience do they have? Number 4, can they pass a background check? Those are really the 4 main qualification filter questions I would use. Okay. Now, the remote interview process is a 4-step process. I'm going to walk you through it. It's very, very simple. I've hired over 100 cleaners using this process. So the first step is the initial outreach. You're going to contact the applicant on any of those platforms that I mentioned before. You're going to confirm those questions that we just talked about. And just like the sales, speed to lead is important. Okay. So as soon as you find a qualified applicant, reach out immediately. Call preferred. Okay. You want to make sure that you're setting up this interview as soon as possible. Cleaners want to know when their next job is coming. And that's their mentality. So if you can be in front of them as quickly as possible, it shows that you're proactive. It shows that what kind of leader you are. It shows what to expect in terms of upcoming jobs, right? It's reflective. If you're quick, if you're responsive, they know, okay, this guy has his stuff together. This is a company that is going to be great to work for and a huge opportunity for me. And that all comes through just the initial outreach, what you're conveying to them, okay? And once you have that qualified candidate, you're going to want to set up an interview. Now, I would do a video interview. Listen, if you're doing it locally, you can also do an in-person interview. But during that interview process, you're going to want to ask about their work history. You're going to want to know why they're interested in cleaning, what motivates them. You're going to ask them scenario questions like what would you do if you broke something valuable, and how they define cleaning and what is their process, and getting a good sense of how they answer these questions, because obviously that's going to be reflective of the work and the level of which they're going to go through. Now, these aren't all the questions, but I have a script that typically everyone that I work with uses that has all these things lined out so you can find the best possible candidate. Now, signs that you're going to look for is they're on time for the call. They communicate clearly. They look professional, right? The things that you're going to look out for: red flags, late to the call. They badmouth previous employers. They only ask about pay, right? These are the attributes that you want to stay away from. These are not going to be good cleaners, and you have to be proactive about identifying these red flags. I can't stress this enough, because if you onboard somebody who's not good to your company, there's a lot of future problems that you're about to face, because it's not just the cleaners being bad. It's giving, essentially, if a cleaner has more than one client, they're going to be producing bad results at scale, right? So you don't want to be in a situation where cleaners had 6 cleanings in a row and all your clients are pissed, as an example. And you just think back to something on the interview process that you knew was bad, but you didn't have the principle to just let them go here, okay? So if you sense something bad, trust your intuition. Trust these things that I'm saying here, and just don't move forward with that candidate. It's okay. There will be better candidates. You will find them. In this video interview, it should be scheduled within 48 hours of first contact. So you want to do this as soon as possible. Do not wait for over 48 hours. Again, it's reflective of how you run your company. And if you wait longer than this time amount, you're going to experience a huge drop off in show rate. At least this is what I've seen. And once they pass this process, you want to have a specific onboarding sequence after they pass the interviews. You're going to want to have a contract that they sign. You want to have a background check that they're going to pass. You're going to want to get their insurance. And then you're going to want to set up a test cleaning, which is probably the most important step. And once you've gone through that process, the last step should be completing a test cleaning with you. Okay, this test cleaning is my recommendation. Don't do a huge test cleaning. Just do a small test cleaning. Get a checklist of what you want done, some before photos as well, and tell them that it's going to be a paid trial to see how they're going to do. Really what we're evaluating is not like every single cleaning possible scenario that they can do, because you can't really test everything within a cleaning, right? Because every house is going to be different. Every service is going to be different. But what you can test, and what I would recommend testing in this phase, is, were they on time? Did they follow the checklist? How's the quality? How did they communicate, right? Those are the things that I want to know through that trial test clean. On top of that, are they going to steal this client? At the end of the clean, I would have the client ask them if they wanted to continue services with them, how should they proceed? And if they say, oh, just contact me directly, ding, 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 that's a red flag. They're going to probably steal all your clients. So you want to be vetting for that right there as well. Okay. Now, after that, I would just make a decision right on the spot. So if it went great, offer it, get them onboarded. If not, move on with it. Totally fine. And just make sure you're continuing on with your process. Now, a lot of people make this really big mistake here, and that's to think that hiring is an on and off switch based on where you're at with the company. And I want to emphasize this. Hiring is a funnel. Hiring is something you're always going to do. Emphasis on always. It never ends, and you need to do volume. So it is unreasonable that you do not have high quality cleaners. The problem is that things happen. Cleaners get injured. Things happen in their lives, and sometimes they can't be reliable, even your reliable ones. So you need to have contingency in place. And the way you do that is you're always hiring. Always be hiring is my recommendation. And it's like a funnel. Just because you have 100 applicants doesn't mean you're going to have 100 cleaners. So you need to go through the reps to get to the quality cleaners. This funnel is a diagram of what this experience really looks like. So you're going to have 100 applicants. That's only going to turn into 10 interviews that are scheduled. From there, that's probably only going to be 3 to 4 trial cleans. From there, that's probably only going to be 2 to 3 quality hires. Okay. So when I say volume, this is what I mean. You have to have the volume to get those 2 or 3 quality cleaners. That way you can actually keep running your company in the event of anything were to happen to your existing team. On top of that, you always want to be improving the base level of your team. So if you're always hiring, it's like a sports team, right? So any sports team have their stars, have their, middle of the road players, and have their bench players. You always want to be improving your bench, because if you do that, you actually improve the entire team's baseline, which makes your company stronger and better. So always be hiring is also a strategy to improve your overall team performance and cover anything that were to happen to your team. Okay, now that we've gone over the hiring process, we're going to go over the operations that scale. So my daily routine consists of really maintenance and revenue generating activities. So I'm just going to quickly go over it one more time. We went really over the maintenance before. So again, this is nothing that we're going to really go over again. But again, we got the morning management, we have the midday check-in, and then we have the end of day, just making sure we're teed up for the following day, and anything that happened today has been handled or is set up to be handled in the future. It's usually around 45 minutes. I would say any of these really vary in terms of the minutes, but like generally speaking, that's how long it takes to manage on a day-to-day basis. From there, there's revenue generating activities. Now this varies depending on where you're at with the business as well as how much have you delegated, okay? So in the beginning stages, you'll probably be answering your inbound sales and customer service requests. So that's going to be stuff that you'll be doing. I would also add hiring to this as well. So that's going to vary. Now, as you obviously delegate, you have a team on the management support team, that's going to be their job. So you're actually not even going to be doing the revenue generating activities. You're more managing it. So it's even less time or no time at all, right? So that's what a daily operation looks like at scale. Okay. And if you can do this, this is going to be extremely easy to manage. This is going to have high leverage because you've got technology and labor that are working in your favor, and you're able to stay profitable. Okay. On a weekly basis, there's some other things that need to be considered when you're going into each week. So the things that I recommend really is cleaner capacity, availability, analysis, and understanding at the beginning of the week. So do we need more cleaners, or are we getting close to full capacity? That's something you need to understand so you can communicate or do more sourcing, do more hiring, and really ramp things up there. Okay. As well as sales, I would just get an understanding of like what happened last week. Are we trying to improve on anything this week in terms of sales performance? Do we need to adjust anything on marketing? So we understand what we need to do this week in terms of sales, because marketing informs sales and vice versa. Wednesday, I'm basically checking everything that we said we were going to try and do on Monday. Okay, we wanted to do these things this week. Are they actually happening? Okay, and then on Friday, I would review that week. We're paying out the cleaners and we're planning next week. Marketing, sales, hiring, based on all the things we just talked about, right? And that's how you start to get into a cadence week over week. And then really on a monthly basis, it's one full financial review, performance analysis, and set goals for the month. And then I would also check in with the cleaners for performance and feedback, because the last thing you want to do here is never talk to your cleaners, and then you never know when they're starting to get unhappy, right? So this is an opportunity for there to be an open dialogue about how we can make this a better opportunity for you at this company, okay? So that's really like what I would say is like the monthly, weekly, and daily routines of operations at scale. Now, what complements all of that is the systems, right? You have to have CRM sales systems, CRM hiring systems that manage pipelines, promotional campaigns, social media management, everything from the hiring step-by-step process we talked about. That's all within the CRM, right? We're having it automated. We're having everything there. So if we have 100 clients that week, if we have 25 hiring applicants that week, we don't have any issues, right? It's all organized, it's all in one place, and it's all regimented. Okay, scheduling systems. We have softwares, like I mentioned before, with Booking Qual that allow you to scale with hundreds of clients. So it's not a question of being able to handle more from an operational and systems standpoint. We want to have automated communication, right? That's typically going to be hooked up with your scheduling software on your phone and basically letting everyone know when certain things are happening with the cleaners and clients. That way everyone's aware. Okay, because at scale, think about it, you might need to send hundreds of messages a week to make sure everyone's aware of where everyone's at, how everything's going, and check in. And that all comes through automation setup, system setup, and understanding first when do you want to do all these touch points from running this business. We talked about it before too, but payment collection through Stripe. That's going to be your reliable payment processor. And I recommend collecting, just so you know, when you do this, I just do the day of the service after the service has been completed. You can do it around midnight or a little time after. I recommend a little time after, just to leave yourself time to reconcile any issues at the clean. Because the last thing you want to do is create a negative customer experience where they don't get the service they're happy for, and then they see a payment processor charge in full. And what really needed to happen was a conversation where you went in and cleaned everything up, and then they were happy again, and then they got processed. So I like to leave a little buffer time so you don't run into any upset clients, okay, with the payment processing. So a couple issues with operations, like I just put a couple examples here that you'll typically run into. So cleaners calling out, aka they're not coming. You got to have backup cleaners in place. This ties into always hiring and making sure you have a deep bench. From the client side, you're going to want to offer to reschedule with the discount. If you're just starting out, and I know some people do this, so I included in here, you can clean it as a last resort, but I don't recommend doing that. That's not really the owner's mentality, as we mentioned at the beginning of the call. But I know that some people, when you're just starting out, you might clean it yourself as a last resort, although I don't recommend it. Another operational issue you might run into is the client is unhappy with cleaning. In that case, I usually run with 100% satisfaction guarantee. So we have a cleaner come back to fix it at no charge, and you want to make sure that they're 100% satisfied. I can't tell you how many 5-star reviews I've gotten through doing that. People appreciate when you're going to go the extra mile, and I see this common issue as an opportunity to get that 5-star review and prove that you're different from other companies. Because the normal company, when they're not happy, they just go to the next customer and they don't care, okay? And then another common issue you might run into is cleaners consistently are late. So typically, I have some sort of management and protocol in place where if they're consistently late, we have to have a conversation about being on time. Otherwise, I give them a formal warning, and if they can't do it, we end up replacing them. Because if they can't be reliable, that's just going to be indicative of everything else. And honestly, the clients get upset when they have an expectation that's not met. And it's terrible to do that right off the bat, right? So if you're telling someone we're going to be there at 9 a.m. and we show up at 10:30, the client already thinks that the service is going to be poor without them even having to clean yet. Honestly, it creates a harder job by being consistently late. So it's important that you get in front of that. So these are some like operational things that I would say are going to come with the territory of scaling, and you want to have processes around them that are very clear so you can provide consistent results at scale. Now, remember, on the operations side, this ties back to the mindset. We are building systems and not jobs. And just to go back to the McDonald's principle, their success comes from systems, not from having the world's best chefs. Okay, so everything we talked about, including like the operational things that I even said we're going to pop up, we have to have documentation of this. We have to have SOPs for everything. We have to have checklists that everything's followed. Because if we can do that, what we're actually trying to achieve is not to be micromanaging everything, but we're trying to produce a system that has consistent results. That's really like the long and short answer of all of this is really like having that really means consistency and results. So even if you have variable cleaners, variable people that are running the company, the system is so robust that it doesn't matter who's operating it, right? That's what McDonald's understands. Like they can have anybody in the kitchen, but their system is so clear that the food becomes the same. It's formulaic, okay? So like that's the concept I really want you to get from this idea of building system, not jobs. So having a standard operating procedure checklist for every room, the bathroom as an example, right? This is what I would have lined out so your cleaners know, okay, these are the things I need to check off. I would probably have like, for example, if the client said this was a focus area, I would put this a focus area, make sure my cleaner knows, communicate that in advance to give them the highest possible chance of success. Because if you have this, you can define exactly what done means for every room. Your cleaners can mentally check this off and take photos before they leave. And if they do all these things, they have photos before and after, they do their job, they do the checklist, they do the focus areas, the clients are going to be extremely satisfied with the service, right? It comes down to them understanding what they need to do and providing that with them. On top of that, you layer that in with communication templates like booking confirmation, appointment reminders, follow-up message, complaint handling sequences, and review requests. These are copy and paste. You don't write them from scratch every time, right? We're building a system of communication. We're building a system of SOPs. And this is the test. Can someone with zero experience follow your SOP and get 80% of the way there? If yes, you have a good system, right? This is what it means to build a company at scale. And we're going to go over now like when to delegate all of this and what does it look like when you're going through this evolution process at your company. Okay, so once you've gotten all those things in place, to me, this is really what it is. It's kind of revenue driven. Obviously, this is not a hard and fast, like it has to be this revenue number, but this is generally what I've seen the evolution of most companies take when I work with clients. So the beginning stages, they're just getting off the ground. You're hiring your first cleaners, you're getting your first sales, you're having your first initial systems being installed. You get to that 2 or 5K a month level, you've got 3 or 4 cleaners handling all the physical work. You generally have a baseline understanding of marketing and sales. You've done enough sales now. You're starting to sell recurring packages, 5 to 10K per month. You've got 5 to 7 cleaners. You're focusing purely on business growth, marketing and sales and hiring. That's it. That's where you're spending most of your time. And you're doing really well on it. You're building the recurring base. To me, after this point, this is where it really gets exciting from a delegation side because now you have enough business profits to invest and help on the support and management side. That's typically when I see someone bring in an operations manager, VA, that handles the day-to-day to complement your work. And I've mentioned this before. They start to do those things. You start to delegate those tasks. But the key thing is here, you are building systems back here at 0 to 2K. So by the time you're here, there is no question about what to do at this company. Everything is regimented, everything is organized, everything is understood. And you've done this test. Zero experience, VA comes in, they get 80% of the way there. That's a green check mark, which allows you to keep growing. So beyond 20K per month. to hire multiple team members and assume a leadership position as CEO. Okay. That's what it looks like to delegate this business as you scale. So that delegation process looks like this. Physical cleaning, that's done from day one in this model, right? We don't have to worry about that. Scheduling confirmations happens when you bring in your VA. So they're handling the scheduling software. They're handling customer service and complaints. They're doing sales and lead follow-up. They're doing the interviews. They're running the hiring process. They're running the onboarding process. They're starting to track your data and reporting so you can be a manager of everything here. It's not overnight, as you can see this. It is a progressive step-by-step process, though. That's regimented, clear, and straightforward and simple. And the goal through this process is to never touch a mop. Again, you're building a business. You're not creating a job for yourself. This is basically an exercise of building a business from scratch, but doing it in a way that's set up for the future days earlier. Because a lot of people will get to these points here, these last 3 lines here, and they haven't done any of the work. They don't have anything set up. They're running with their head cut off here, and they stay here for an even longer time. But if you do everything that we've been talking about today, this is how you fast track beyond this point. So the last part here, we're going to put it all together. This is your 120-day action plan leaving this call. I hope you found value to this point. I want to give you something leaving this call so you can just hit the ground running if you decide to do this on your own. Okay, so the first month, foundation, your first clients, days 1 through 30. Going back, week 1, we're setting everything up. We're getting all the essentials there. We're getting our contacts we want to reach out to. Week 2, we're messaging your warm market. You're booking your first clients. You're hiring your first cleaners. You're documenting things that are occurring in your business. Week 3, we're expanding and improving. We're going beyond our warm market. We're starting to do expanded outreach. I would say 3 and 4 are interchangeable. You can do paid media there. You can do the expansion there. Either way works. Goal is to get 10 clients. Second month, we're focusing on systems and growth. You've done everything for the first time. You understand what it's like to hire. You understand what it's like to market and sell. But we need to start doing more of that. And we need to start focusing on turning our one-time clients to recurring and selling more recurring clients so we can get that baseline higher than the next month, right? We talked about that. We've seen the graph charts. We understand that this model is built on recurring services, and we need to systematize our operations to do so. So we're upselling satisfied clients to recurring services. We're onboarding more reliable cleaners. We're detailing SOPs for all these services. We're implementing quality control systems. And our goal is to clip $5,000 a month in revenue in month 2. Okay. Month 3, hire more cleaners, delegate more tasks, systematize more business processes, right? We're growing the company, but we're also systematizing every step along the way. We're never stopping the hiring. As you notice, I've always said hiring every single month. You're never not hiring. You should never be cleaning in month 3 at this point. If you were, that's completely done. But at this point, you should never touch a mop at all. I really don't expect you to do it at any point, but if you were, you would never touch it again. Starting to automate your sales and customer service processes through the CRMs and things we've talked about. You're starting to understand marketing, understand budgeting, and strategically spending based on the ROI metrics you've had from the first 2 months. And at this point, I would expect you to have around 25 clients, $7,500 in monthly revenue. And in the 4th month, it's really about hitting your 10K month, building management systems. Again, continuing to hire more cleaners, implementing more automation, scheduling, communication, things like that, leveraging your CRM usage for maximum sales and hiring processes, focusing on entirely business development, high leverage, potentially bringing on help in the form of a VA here. And your goal should be to have 40 plus clients, 10K plus monthly revenue. Okay. And that breaks down as follows. So let me break down exactly what 10K a month in this business looks like. You've got 10K per month. You're paying out your cleaners around 50% to fulfill the labor. You're spending about $1,500, $1,600 on marketing. You're spending about $300 on fixed expenses month to month, and you're profiting around $3,100. That's a typical average case of what I would expect from you if you're doing everything correctly. Now, this is all while working 1 to 2 hours per day if you're doing everything effectively and efficiently. This is the beginning of your journey, and most individuals, honestly, will scale well beyond that after the 120 days, and honestly, some of the clients I've worked with well beyond that within the 120 days. So this is the roadmap of what I want you to take leaving this presentation of what you're trying to do in the next 4 months. Now, some common mistakes that I think kill your cleaning businesses, especially in the beginning stages. Number 1, trying to do the cleanings yourself. Again, the whole point of this is to build a remote business. Hire the cleaners from day one. You're the CEO. You are not a janitor. You're not a maid. You don't do that. Again, if you take 5 hours out of your day to do cleaning instead of progressively and actively building your business with higher leverage things in business development, you're killing your business. That's a bad trade. It's trading your time for money. Mistake number 2, you're competing on price. Again, going back to the sales, we don't want to be the cheapest. We want to present the best value. Focus on reliability, quality, and peace of mind when you're on the marketing process, on the sales process, on the offering the best recurring packages process. Everything shouldn't be about being the cheapest option. Mistake number 3, going back to the whole point of why we're here, is not getting recurring recurring clients and that predictable income. If you live and die off one cleanings, you're quite literally on a hamster wheel month to month. It's not a way to live. It's not why you're building a business. And ultimately, recurring revenue is what builds wealth. And people that sell their cleaning businesses, it's the recurring revenue that's doing the sale of the business. So if you want to sell this business one day down the line, you need to be focused on that, because that, as all buyers, that's what they're looking for. What is the guarantee heading into that following month? Mistake number 4 is not systematizing early enough. If you're not documenting everything from early enough, if you're not setting up templatized approaches to running this business, you're not running a business 90 days from now. You'll be off a cliff. Your hair is going to be on fire. So build like you're planning to scale from day 0. And mistake number 5 is not tracking your numbers, because if you can't measure what you're doing in your business, you have no idea what you're going to improve. You are operating blind. So if you track leads, if you track conversion rates, if you track revenue, if you track performance and quality day to day of each cleaning that occurs, that's a business owner that understands, where do I need to improve? How do I pinpoint improvement? How do I track progress and spend my time effectively as the CEO and leader of the business? So those are the 5 most common mistakes I think that kill businesses early. And if you focus on not doing those mistakes, I think you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of your competition. Listen, if you made it this far, I congratulate you on going through this presentation. I appreciate it as well. And if you're serious about building a remote cleaning business, here's exactly what you need to do. Choose your market. Set up your business foundation. Create your Google business profile. Start with your warm market. Hire your first cleaners immediately. Document everything. Focus on recurring revenue. Scale systematically. These are all things we've discussed in this presentation. You can go back, review them if you'd like. But this opportunity is massive, guys. This system works. The only question is whether you're going to take action on it, because this business is not complicated, right? We're not sending rockets into space like Elon Musk. That is a complicated business that is also very hard to execute. This is a simple business, right? In the sense that we're cleaning houses. It's pretty straightforward, but it is hard to execute. It's hard to do everything in here. But if you're willing to take the action and do all those required steps, there's no reason why you can't have success. So that's the complete system. That's how you build a $10,000 per month plus, honestly, remote cleaning business from absolute zero. So you have really 3 options in the way I see it leaving this presentation. There's going to be 3 outcomes from you watching this. Number 1, you just take all the information I just gave you, you do nothing with it, and you stay exactly where you are right now. Your life will be the same next year as it is today. I've talked with clients that were interested in this program and they come back a year later, same exact place. Option number 2, you can try and figure out all this on your own. Now, you might make some progress, but you're probably going to make a lot of expensive mistakes. You could waste months. You might even give up when things get difficult, and you might not know what to do next. Option number 3 is you can work with me directly and my team. We'll personally guide you through every single step of this process. You get access to everything: templates, SOPs, documentation, scripts, systems, exact step-by-step sequence on how to execute everything we talked about today. And we'll be there to answer your questions. I'll be there to answer your questions. We'll help you solve problems, make sure you don't make those costly mistakes that burn time and money. My growth cleaning protocol students get results fast because they don't have to figure everything out here from scratch. It's laid out, so they just focus on execution only, which it's hard, right? Execution is hard, but if you don't have to worry about what to do and you just have the things you need to do, you just do it. And I think that removes half of the equation of why entrepreneurship is hard, in my opinion. Some examples of this: Mario hit 10K in just 15 days. You can't do that unless you have a specific thing you need to follow, right? It's such this is, just to be clear, like, I don't think everyone's going to be Mario because I think he's a star, but all I'm saying is if you don't have a rigid system, you're not going to be able to do this in this short a period of time, right? You have to have something that you can just rip through and just keep taking action aggressively and be a superstar like Mario. Mike hit it in 24 days, right? Like, it's the same thing. Like, Sarah hit it in 30 days. I think she's doing over 30K now. Shravan and Ashna hit it in 24 days or 23 days. They're all following the exact system that I just shared with you, but with my personal guidance and support. Okay. The reason why, in my opinion, is that they're highly motivated, highly talented people, but they have a specific system that produces success. If you go onto my YouTube channel, there are many more like them, many more talented individuals. I don't think that they're necessarily special. They're just highly motivated and they had a blueprint. So if you want to build your own remote cleaning business in the next 120 days instead of struggling for years to figure this out on your own, maybe even quit along the way, click the first link in the description to apply for my coaching. It's your call, but I will see you in the next one, and have a great day.